continue with some Inyani Chanuka. So the Gemara in Shabbos, Adaf Chaf Aleph Beis, discusses the Zman Hadlaka, the time for lighting. When is the appropriate time to light candles? So the Gemara says, Mitzvasa, it's not too close, Mitzvah Mishatishka Chama Achatichla Rego Min Ashuk. The Gemara says the mitzvah is Mishatishka Hachama. So it literally means Shkia is a sunset. So what does that mean? Well, I know what sunset means, but what does the Gemara mean when it says Mishatishka Hachama? So that's a machlokes rishona between the Rambam and the Mordechai and others, and it's whether it means Shkia as in sunset, or does it mean Sof Shkia, the end of sunset, i.e. nightfall, Seis HaKochavim. So the Rambam paskins, and many briskers go with the Rambam. That's why the many who light at sunset based on the Rambam. Bishatishka Chama, let me point out the Rambam isn't a leniency. He's a stringency. What do I mean he's not a leniency? In other words, everyone agrees it has to go a half an hour after nightfall. The only question is when you have to start lighting. So therefore, according to the Rambam, you can't use our Chanuka candles. The way we know, the typical 30-minute, it'd be out even before nightfall started. To the Rambam, you have to have either Shabbos candles or oil, but that's I'm just pointing out, it's not a kula, it's a chumrah. You have to I'm only asking when is the earliest time to light. Everyone agrees, everyone's going to agree to the end time, but the beginning time. So the Rambam says sunset, the Mordechai says nightfall. So that I think most probably go with nightfall, but there are those who are briskers, Machmer and others like the Gra, they go with Shkia, and so anyone who lights at sunset has to light oil or longer candles. So
that it goes until
right, so it has to go. Right, so it has to go. So basically, half an hour after Seitz, because everyone else is assuming Mishatishka Chama means Seitz, and now from Seitz until Achatichla Regel Min Ashuk, the Rambam writes Chatzi Shah O Yosir, a little bit more than a half an hour. See, the Rambam, it's not like halacha Moshe Messina. Like when it comes to, let's say, matzah, there's a set shear. You have to eat a kazayas, and there's no all around the kazayas. Whatever kazayas is, around a half an hour. So there's no exact. The Rambam made. Let me make it up like a negative. There's nowhere the Gemara says it has to go for half an hour. But the Rambam says that's how he interprets the Gemara. But he's the one who brings up the half an hour. That's why, ironically, the candles go with the Rambam, but not with the Rambam. They take the half an hour, but you can't light with the Rambam sunset, or else I'd say it'd be more difficult to fulfill your mitzvah. I'm not going to say it's definitely not Yotzei. That we'll get into. So either way, the Gemara says the mitzvah is from the Shkia to either sunset to nightfall, ad shetichla regel min hashuk, until the Gemara says the last people, the Tarmudai, they were Goyim, who were wood choppers, wood gatherers. They were the last people off the street. So therefore, whenever they left the street, that was the end of the mitzvah, because the whole purpose is pursuing Isa, is to publicize the miracle, and therefore you need people out on the street. And in fact, they say over the Brisker Rav, who when he lived in Eretz Yisrael, so he usually didn't care about the movie theaters. In fact, he probably wanted to close them down. But he used to ask people, when does the last feature end? He lived, I guess, near the movie theater. So he said, so he used to light enough oil so when people come back from the movie, the people walking down the street, he'd have more, again, it was only a hidden, you didn't have to light that long, but that's how Shetichla Reg, so wherever you are is different. Today is obviously different, where we have lights and people are much later. We'll get into maybe the Zman changes. But for the...
There's always cars on.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And definitely on Bathurst and New York City, yes, that's why we'll get into lighting 2 a.m. But I'm saying is, so we'll start Bizman HaGemara and then we'll move to Bizman HaZeh. So let's go to the end time for a minute. So the Gemara says you light at Seitz or Shkia until Ashatichla Regel Min Hashuk, until there's no one left on the street. So let me ask you something. Bizman HaGemara, you were spacing out, you were busy eating, whatever you were doing. you woke up and it's past Tichla Regel Menashuk and you haven't lit Chanukah candles yet. What do you do, if anything? So the Rambam writes, there's always tomorrow night. Lucky there are 8 days of Chanukah, because your mitzvah is over tonight. You blew it. It's me'uvos, to paraphrase it. He doesn't say this. To paraphrase the Gemara in Brachas, it's me'uvos lo yachol liskon. That basically, when you miss something, it's something you can't make up. Let's say you intentionally. There's a concept of tashlumin, making up davening. If you forget shacharis, you can make it up at mincha. But if I say, you know what, it's a great scam. Shacharis takes me 45 minutes. I'm not going to daven shacharis, and I'll make up 2, and then that's called bittul. That's no good. There's no tashlumin. That's something you can't make up. Or if I forgot shacharis and I daven mincha, now it's Ma'ariv time. I also can't make it up. So we only go by the next tefillah. So that's what the Rambam says. That's it. You missed it. Hopefully the other night you'll catch it, but your mitzvah of Ner Chanukah is lost. That's what the Rambam writes. The Rashba disagrees, and again, there's all Bisman HaGemara still. The Rashba says, what are you talking about? If you miss Tichel Regel Menashuk, you take the candle and you light Acha Tichel Regel Menashuk. There's no, he says, let me ask you something, Megillah Esther. Let's say it's 2 a.m. and you haven't read the Megillah yet, so that's it. No, so you read you always try to look at the time which is most publicized in the miracle, but what are you going to do? Do nothing. Something's better than nothing. A little publicizing is better than nothing. As the Rashba quotes the Mishnah in Megillah Daf Chaf, a mitzvah balayla is a mitzvah kol halayla. Any mitzvah that's done at night is all night to do. So up until dawn, you could still do a mitzvah at night. So the Rashba's on the polar opposite. The Rambam, that's it. You missed Tichel Regel Menashuk, your mitzvah's over. The Rashba says, you've missed your ideal, optimal pursuing Nisa, but of course you go ahead and lie. Why wouldn't you lie? So what is the Nakuda, what is the issue here between the Rambam and the Rashba? Why does the Rambam say you lost your chance, and the Rashba says, you didn't lose your chance, you lost your chance for the optimal, but you could still do it. So it seems to be Tosfos raises the same question, and Tosfos writes what he says. It's a suffix. He's not sure, and you light without a bracha. So we have a third shita. We have the Rambam definitely no lighting. You missed it. Rashba definitely yes with a bracha, and Tosfos writes, I'm a suffix. Why is he in doubt? Because I have to tell you some of the Gemara. Because the Gemara says, why there's a brayta that says the mitzvah is to light from Shkia Sacham until Tichel Regel Menashuk. So what's it coming to teach me? The Gemara wants to know. So the Gemara says, is it coming to teach me that there's? So one opinion of the Gemara is coming to teach me that's how much. That's the time you have to light. The ilo adulek madulek. That this is the time period. Ideally at Seitz or Shkia, but any time in between you can light. But if you miss that time, that's it. That's what the first opinion of the Gemara says. And the second opinion of the Gemara says, no, it's nothing to do with the time. Inami l'shi'urei. It's coming to teach me the shear. How much oil I have to put in my... It's not, I could light at 3 a.m. in the morning. It's not, the Gemara is not telling me anything about the actual time. It's telling me how much oil I need in the menorah, how long the candle has to be. So Tosfos says, I'm a suffix. I don't know which way to follow. According to answer number 1, then the ego adulik madulik. The once you missed Tichel Regel Menashuk, that's it. Your mitzvah is over. That's what the Rambam seems to go with, and the Rashba goes with inami l'shiura. You have all night. So the suffix of Tosfos is the machlokas, the Rambam and the Rashba based on the Gemara. But what's the svara? So the Mefarshim point out. There's a fundamental question. We know part of we know there's a fundamental aspect of Ner Chanukah is Persumei Nisa. Mitzvah Chanukah, Chaviv alav miod. It's a very cherished mitzvah, etc. You even have to sell your clothes for the mitzvah. So the question is, can I do the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah without Persumei Nisa? In other words, does the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah exist in a vacuum, in a case where there is, let's assume it's 2 a.m., no one's around, pitch dark, no one never comes here, Again, Bisman HaGemara, I'm asking, not Bisman HaZeh, yeah? So was there any point of lighting? So the Rambam says no, because the whole reason behind Ner Chanukah is Persumei Nisa. If you can't have any Persumei Nisa, there's no mitzvah, will be a bracha l'batala. The Rashba says no. The two independent points. There's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, and the rabbis say you have to light Chanukah. And then the ideal way should be in the most publicized fashion. But if you can't do, you still could do one without the other. And Tosas seems to be in doubt about that, so his doubt. So you have three shitas. In the time of the Gemara, if you miss Tichla Regel Menachuk, there's no one on the street, can I still light Ner Chanukah? Rambam, no. Rashba, yes, with a bracha. Tosfos, I'm not sure. Safek brachas lahakia, light without a bracha. There's a fourth shita. How could there be a fourth shita? Only in Judaism, right? I thought we covered everything.
Only four?
So, at least four. So what's the fourth shita? The Ritva quotes from the Sefer HaTrumas, one of the Rishonim, as follows. He says, of course you light, but what do? You light inside the home. Again, Bisman HaGemara, everyone's lighting outside. You should have Ner Chanukah on one side, your mezuzah on the other. You're surrounded by mitzvahs. Comes along the Sefer HaTrumas and says, you know what? If you miss Tichel Regel Min HaShuk, then light inside your house. So that's a tremendous chiddush to say for Truma is saying that. He's saying Bisman HaGemara, you are allowed to light inside your house. That's clearly going against Tosfos. Because what does Tosfos say? Because Tosfos writes on this Gemara, he says, and this whole Gemara about Mishatishka Atzaticha Regman Hashuk, that only applies Bisman HaGemara. But Bisman HaZeh, in his day, certainly our day, but in Tosfos' day, that we light inside, even during Tosfos' day, they lit inside, and the mitzvah is for the people inside the home, so that's not an issue anymore. So Tosfos clearly assumes Bisman HaGemara, that wasn't a possibility. In other words, according to Tosfos, there was no option of lighting inside during the time of the Gemara. And he says that now, in our time, we can light inside, so now the halacha changed. And the Sefer Truma says it did. So what's the issue? Like, what's the source? Why does Tosfos say no? Why does Sefer Truma? So there's a Gemara on the same daf, a little further down. The Gemara has the following line. The Gemara says the mitzvah to light outside, Pesach Beisom, and then the Gemara says, Uveshas HaSakana, and during the time of danger. We'll learn during the time of religious persecution, that if you are caught lighting Hanukkah candles, this is the way Tosfos learns, you could get threat of death, put in jail, so therefore they didn't want you lighting outside and risking your life. Uveshas HaSakana, Meiniach al Shulchano V'dal. You put it on the table and that's enough. You can light inside. So the Gemara says that during the time of danger is the first time the Gemara mentions lighting inside. Uveshas HaSakana, you can light inside. So how do you learn this Gemara? Is this Gemara discovering America here, or perhaps Canada, like a tremendous new concept I'm introducing? That now, up until now, there wasn't even an option. You have to light outside, but now, time of danger. Okay, now is that what the Gemara is saying, or no? Really, you can always light inside. It's just telling me, it's being descriptive. You always could have lit inside. It's better to light outside, but you could have. However, in the time of danger, you have to light inside without even letting you light outside. So that seems to be the machlokas here, Tosfos and the Sefer HaTrumas. Tosfos writes, Bisman HaGemara, there was no option. So Tosfos learning the Gemara, it's a new takana. Up until Shas Takana, it wasn't even entertained. You can never light your candles inside, and you have to light outside. And the Sefer HaTrumas says no. The Gemara is just telling me descriptive. That is when they actually actualized and did it, but if they would have did it Bisman HaGemara, it's also okay. So that's a fundamental dispute. Bisman HaGemara, were they permitted to light inside the home? Tosfos says no. Sefer HaTrumas yes, so we have four shitas. This machlokes, whether Bisman HaGemara you can light inside the home is really a machlokas achronim also. Where do I see a machlokas achronim? There's a Gemara we did a couple weeks ago. I'm sure it's in your short-term memory. So the Gemara talks about you only have enough money. It's not a 21st or 20th century shaila. Someone's afflicted with poverty and they don't have enough money. They only can buy either near Shabbos or near Chanuka. So that's what we discussed. So the Gemara says near Shabbos wins because of Shalom Bayis, and then it's near Chanuka. So if you only have one candle, you use it for Shabbos candles and not Chanuka. That's the Gemara. So comes along the Vilna Gaon and the Magen Avraham and says, what's going on here? Why do we have to choose? Why can't we use one candle for both? The both mitzvahs have to do with candles. Why can't I use the same candle for Shabbos and Chanukah? Why do I need two different... Well, why is the Gemara even asking either or? Do both. If I have two candles, I'll use one for each. If I only have one candle, just say use it for both. Why do I have to make it? Why am I picking and choosing?
Well, the placement of it, right?
Yeah, what do you mean?
No, they're placed differently. If it's for Shabbos, it's placed on the table right next to where you're eating, which isn't necessarily...
And where's the Chanukah candle?
Or people from outside can see it.
But where's the Chanukah candle? No, I'm saying, I'm asking you, so you're saying is the place...
Where people can see it.
But where? Are you saying it's inside? We'll get...
Yeah, inside.
Is it? Well, it's Bisman HaGemara, but you're on the right track. So that's the Magen Avraham is going to say along your lines. Before I get to the Magen Avraham, I'm going to do the Vilna Gaon. So he has as follows. He says, the Gemara says by near Chanukah, Asur lehishtamesh la'or. You can't get benefit from the near Chanukah. It's there because if you're going to sit there reading, it looks like it's dark in your house. There's no persume nisa. It has to be recognizable. You are lighting it for Chanukah and to publicize the miracle. So the question is, okay, that's the Gemara. So the Shulchan Aruch quotes the Gemara, but then it adds something doesn't say in the Gemara. Also, afilu tashmishe shel kedusha. In other words, even for tashmishe mitzvah, the Shulchan Aruch says you can't use near Chanukah. That's not the Gemara. That's the Mechaber. So the Vilna Gaon asked, and everyone else asked, where does the Mechaber know that? He made up his own Gemara. Like the Gemara only said, I can't count my change. I can't do a davar chol by the candles. Where does the Mechaber know that I can't do a dvar mitzvah? So the Vilna Gaon says it's an explicit Gemara. So maybe to the Vilna Gaon it's an explicit Gemara. To us at best it's an implied Gemara. So what's the Gemara? The Gemara I just quoted here, because what does the Vilna Gaon say? The Vilna Gaon asks, he says, why didn't the Gemara give an option, say use one candle for both? The same candle used for near Chanukah and near Shabbos. So the Vilna Gaon answers, because you can't, because since near Chanukah, even Tashmishi Shel Mitzvahs, so you can't use the same candle, because Shabbos, the whole purpose is to get Hana from it, is to read, is to eat the meal by the light, and so he says, that's where the Mechaber got it from. In fact, the Gemara did not suggest to use one candle for both. We see from here, it's also to get benefit from near Chanukah, even for a mitzvah purpose. That's how the Vilna Gaon learns the Gemara. The Magen Avraham gets a totally different answer. He says, what are you talking about? It's a good question, but pragmatically it's very simple, because you're lighting in two different places. But more than you're lighting two different places is, where do you light near Shabbos? Inside your home. Again, where was near Chanukah? Outside your home. I would use, if both mitzvahs were in the same spot, then maybe you're right. But since it's impossible for me to be lighting one candle outside, inside at the same time, that's why the Magen Avraham says, that's why the Gemara didn't give that. So everyone agrees the Gemara did not give that answer. But there's a tremendous nafka mina between the two answers. So the Magen Avraham writes However, Bisman Hazeh, during his day, and certainly our day, that we light inside out, but before that, so what do we see? So the Vilna Gaon clearly was learning that you could light candles. He wasn't bothered by the different places. According to the Vilna Gaon, he was learning like the Sefer HaTrumas, that even Bisman HaGemara, you can light your Ner Chanukah inside. It's only a Tashmishi Shel Kedusha issue. And the Magen Avraham is clearly working with Tosfos. That's what he's talking about. How could you light one candle? One's outside, one's inside. So we see the Machlokas Tosfos in the Sefer HaTrumas is also Machlokas the Magen Avraham and the Gra. But so that's a point out. There's a major difference between the Gra and the Magen Avraham. That Bisman Hazeh, that we light candles inside. So according to the Gra, there's no difference. You always can light inside, and therefore you'd say you can't do it because you can't use the Ner Chanukah for even for Tashmishi Shel Mitzvah. But according to the Magen Avraham, he says no. He says, and during his day, you should light one candle and use it for both. You should take the one candle and use it for Ner Chanukah and Ner Shabbos. He doesn't go into details exactly what bracha you make. You like bracha halak Ner Shabbos. He doesn't go into details exactly what you do, but he says you take that one candle and you can fulfill your mitzvah of Ner. He said, what about Asur L'Shtayim Mishol? Oh yeah, what am I going to do? What's the other option? Don't do the mitzvah at all? So if I have no choice, then you're allowed to do it. Obviously, all things being equal, I'm not going to get hana from the candles. But if I have no choice, so then I can. So that's what. So we see. Here's a classic example where we see, according to the Magen Avraham, where the principles given to Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai never change, but the reality of life changes. As I always point out, I'm always asked, Rabbi, does Jewish law change? And I always answer, it depends what you mean by change. Then I get the blank look. I said, if you mean the principles given to Moshe Rabbeinu, that never changes. That's what we believe. But if you ask me the same question today, you asked me 300 years ago, I might give you a different answer. How could that be? Because the reality changes. So no one argues. The principles remain. Shalom Bayis beats out Persumi Nisa. So Bisman HaGemara, you had to make a choice between the two. But Bisman of the Magen Avraham, you didn't have to make a choice. You could do both. You could do Shalom Bayis and Persumi Nisa, and therefore the Magen Avraham would say the Gemara no longer applies since we light candles inside, and therefore he'd say you light one candle for both. That's the Magen Avraham. And today we can even take it a step further. I think I might have mentioned it 2 weeks ago as well. Is Bisman Hazeh, even the Vilna Gaon would agree that. So if somebody asks me today, I have one candle, should I do Ner Shabbos or should I do Ner Chanukah? I tell them Ner Chanukah. They say, what am I, a heretic? What do you mean? I'm going against the Gemara? I'll say, no, I'm not going. I'm going with the Gemara. The Gemara would agree with me. What's changed between now and the time of the Gemara? It's something called electricity. So we have light bulbs. So incandescent light bulbs, they have a din of an Aish. Fluorescent and LED, that's just a din d'Rabbanan, that's not really a fire. And Rav Chaim Ozer Grzinski, one of the great poskim in Europe, the Rav Moshe Feinstein of Europe, he used to make, when electricity first came out, he used to make Havdalah over an electric light, just to show people you can't use lights on Shabbat. This is a din of Aish. So we assume that the burning filament, that's considered an Aish. But the LED and I always ask trivia. I say, what's the pros and cons if you had to have only fluorescent lights in your home or only incandescent? I guess for your utility bill, I'd say fluorescent's probably the better one. But what's the pro and con from a halakhic point of view? So I say like this. So I say, in terms of Chilul Shabbos, you better, if you have only fluorescent, I guess only in terms of lights, you can Machal Shabbos other ways, but in terms of this light, if all you have in your home is fluorescent lights, you cannot be a Machal Shabbos on the Torah level, because Min Torah those aren't considered lights. So therefore, you should have fluorescent lights. If you make a mistake, if you do a shogeg on an Isser D'Rabbanan, you don't even need kapara, right? You don't even, because what's the whole Isser on Isser D'Rabbanan? It's Meridas Chazal. You're rebelling against the rabbis. But here I'm not rebelling. I made a mistake. So the advantage of fluorescent lights, besides your utility bill, is that you can't be Machal Shabbos, and therefore, and you're better off doing a shogeg on an Isser D'Rabbanan. The problem with only fluorescent lights is if you're stuck and only have one candle, you can't fulfill your mitzvah of you can't fulfill your mitzvah of Ner Shabbos with fluorescent, but you could fulfill your mitzvah of Ner Shabbos with electric. That's what many people do. If you're stuck in a hospital and you don't have candles, so you could turn on the electric, and you can even Moshe is against the bracha, but many posts can say even with the bracha. And in fact, I don't like leaving candles alone in my house. Well, I'm not usually taking care of the candles. My wife is, but on the rare occasion, usually I'm the one going away and she's home, so it's not an issue. I'm going to New York or far visiting my parents. But in the rare case when my wife is away and I'm home, then I'm usually invited out, so I'm not going to be home. So I don't like leaving candles alone, so I'll light with the electric light. And in fact, Rav Selevan said you should always do it. Really, today the main light is the electric light. So whoever lights, your wife, whoever lights candles in your home, Rav Selevan recommends, and many poskim, that before you light candles, you should shut off all the lights, turn on all the lights now l'shem Shabbos. Any lights you plan on using on Shabbos, turn them on, light the candle, and the bracha should go on all the lights in the house, which is the Yikr light. The candle is only Tosefet. It's only Tosefet Zur. So and therefore, because the problem is sometimes people light candles, and then they go to shul, and then they go out to eat, they don't come back, and the candles are out. I'm not saying it's a bracha l'vatala, but it's a shaila of lighting candles and not getting hana. So number one, if you did it, you should like learn by the candles or do some tehillah before you go out. But if you do it, have kavanah on the electric light, there's no problem. They're going to be on the whole Shabbos, and you get hana from them. So therefore, even the Vilna Gaon would agree today that if you only have one candle, you use it for Ner Chanukah, and you use it for Ner Shabbos. And Ner Shabbos use the electric. We assume no electric for Ner Chanukah. For different reasons, it has to be Dumya de Mikdash. It has to be similar to the way in the Mikdash. And also the Neser, that perhaps the mitzvah by Chanukah is the Maisa Hadlaka, but by Shabbos it's the Sholem Bayit, it's the Ner Shabbos. But so it happened. Many times during Hanukkah, people are flying to Israel, especially when I'm sure Thanksgiving time, U.S., probably a lot of people are flying this year, but also at the end of December. So what do you do on a plane if you're on a plane on Chanuka? Let's say you're flying to Israel. So in fact, because the Gemara says in Shabbos, Daf Chav Gimel, that we know we make three brachas. The first time we make three brachas, Lahalak Ner Shel Chanuka, Sha'asa Nisam Shachiyanu. The last 2 nights, the last 7 nights, we make this the first 2 brachas. And then the Gemara says, Haroah, someone who doesn't have so Rashi writes, Haroah, someone who has well, Rashi doesn't actually write it, but someone who doesn't have a house, or let's say you're on a boat, but it didn't mean like a carnival cruise, it means like a little boat. Someone who doesn't have a home, so the Gemara says Haroah makes 2 brachas. Someone who sees candles, someone who's not going to light candles in their own home, they don't have a home, so they can make up 2 brachas. It's a discussion whether we make that today or not, but that's what the Gemara says. So the halach is, so if you're on an airplane, is that considered a bias? So Bisman Hazeh, with the planes we have, you have your own compartment, so that's a discussion. Some will say you're on a plane, it's like a homeless person, you don't have a house, so you can't lie. Many assume today our planes have a status of a bias, because you have your own compartment, you have your own, so therefore that's what Rav Aaron Soloveitchik said, that one should use a flashlight. If you want to do Mahadrim and Ahadrin, get 3 flashlights, 4, it doesn't have to be a flashlight, but a battery light. We just said electric doesn't work, so why does the battery work? So that's why. So the answer is because how does electricity work? It's generated as consumed. It's a halacha by near Chanuka. Hanuka osa mitzvahs. Let me ask you something. If I had the oil here and you lit the candle, there's about 2 minutes of oil, but I poured for the next 3 hours. The candles went for 3 hours. Am I yotze or not? The answer is no. Hanuka osa mitzvah. We paskin, you have to have enough oil in the menorah at the time I light. Ironically, if it goes out 5 minutes later, if you only had 5 minutes worth of oil, you're not yotze. It's a bracha batola. But if I had the requisite amount of oil and it went out, and so then the halacha is we pass and it's good. Hanuka osa. What about relighting the candle? So we pass in kafsa eino zakikla. We pass you don't even have to relight. You could the candle could go out and that's it. So therefore you could sit there pouring. So it's a good trivia. One is that you could have a candle going for 4 hours and you're not yotze. You could have a candle going for 1 minute and you're yotze. If I'm sitting there pouring in, it's not good because at the time I lit, you don't have the requisite oil. So we pass can hanuka osa mitzvah and kavse in zakah. So therefore, by battery, the batteries are all there. The power is generated in the battery. So therefore, hanuka osa mitzvah, it's okay. You don't have to leave the flashlight on for 8 hours. After whatever the time is, you could show. If you want to leave it on, great. But I don't know how long the battery is going to last. But either way, it's fine. But once you get the mitzvah, you could shut off the battery. But by electric, it's consumed as generated, and therefore it's no good. So we assume by Shabbos it's good. Again, those who want to have decorations in your home and want to have, electric candles on your window, that's fine. You just can't, now maybe on one hand it's good to have both. To fulfill your mitzvah, you need candles. But it will attract attention if people see lights all over, so they probably complement each other. Just don't make a bracha, on the electric. It's kind of, I guess it's not the same. By Shabbos, candles, they complement each other, but the electric actually is good for the mitzvah. By electric Hanukkah, they don't work for the mitzvah, but it's good as part of the spirit of the law. It helps you publicize the miracle. So therefore, that's what we would do. So Bisman HaGemara, we said, if you miss Tichla Regel Min HaShuk, so what do you do? According to the Rambam, nothing, you missed it. According to the Rashba, you light with a bracha. Tosas wasn't sure. What's the issue? Can you separate Persumi Nisa from the actual mitzvah itself? And then we said there's a 4th sheet to the Sefer HaTrumas, light inside your home, even Bisman HaGemara. Tosas says, what are you talking about? That wasn't an option. You couldn't light inside your home in the only Bisman Hazeh. So it's a machokas Tosas in the Sefer HaTrumas, when the Bisman HaGemara you could light inside. We said this is the machokas, the Vilna Gaon and the Magen Avram, and how you learn that Gemara. Why can't you use one candle for both? According to the Gra, because it's Tashmishi Shel Mitzvah. According to the Magen Avram, because it's 2 different places. One's outside, one's inside. But Bisman Hazeh, the Magen Avram writes that you're lighting inside, you can't use one candle for both. And for us, it's not even an issue. We use electric lights for Shabbos, and we use candles for Chanuka. So we see that Bisman Hazeh, the mitzvah has changed. Number one, the mitzvah is for the inside of the house, not for the outside of the house. That's why, it's a discussion. That's why you have a discussion where you light inside your house. The Gemara talks about lighting by a window, Hasmuchu Rishus Harabim, but Some say, yeah, but that was only because Bisman HaGemara, the mitzvah pursuing Nisa was the outside. Some say you should light in the house, in the place where the people inside your house are going to see it the most. Obviously, if you find a place for both, it's also good. So bottom line is, it's a discussion, what is the ideal place to light, but everyone agrees, Bisman Hazeh, that if you light inside, it's good. See, there is a practice in Eretz Yisrael, and also where I lived in Brooklyn, some people today still light outside. Is it better? So right now, today, Bisman Hazeh, so why did the Gemara say, why don't we light outside? Because it's time of danger. Let's assume we're not in time of danger now. So how come no one's lighting outside anymore? Or not no one, but very few people are. So that depends how you learn that Gemara. So we assume B'shas HaKakana they changed it, and therefore they didn't want you going back to outside, because let's say it's going to be a Shas HaSakana again, and you're not going to know. Let's say it might not be Shas HaSakana for me, but the Jews in Syria, Egypt, it is. So therefore they wanted to make a low plug, since you don't want to put other Jews in danger. So the Chachamim said Shas HaSakana. Now we just keep. Now they say no. That was for Shas Takana, so it depends how you learn that Gemara. Was that telling me the Takana changed and you should light outside? You should light inside and that's it? Or no? So the different minhagim, and some say it's a discussion which way is better. So obviously those who light outside think outside is better, and those who light inside think so. Continue your minhag. Most people light inside, especially also here with the cold weather. You probably would need to cover up the lamps, even if that you have to have a menorah thing and put it inside, because there's another halacha. If you light in front of a ruach, if there's a strong wind, if I light candles, let's say I have all the oil, but let's say I know if I light candles right here, the wind's going to blow it out. I'm not yotze either. It's a ruach mitzuya. If it's a wind came out of nowhere, then I'm yotze. If it's something I couldn't expect, but in fact that's why you can't do it anymore with the security on the airplanes. But let's say back in the day, it wasn't, I guess when you could even smoke on the air, people used to light candles and try to get away with it, on the near Chanuka. So, but everyone knew, but if the stewardess caught you, you'd have to blow it out, or they'd take it away. So the shaila would be, is that good or not? In other words, is that considered a ruach mitzuya? Is that considered that the candle is likely not going to make zaket? Maybe it depends on which airline and what the rules are. LL is probably, so that might depend on which airline you're going on. But that would be the question then. Today you can't even begin. You get put in jail probably or something, putting the whole plane in sakana, and you'd be put on the terror. You'd be on the no-fly list. So I'm not recommending it. But the question is, even if assuming someone did it and got it, it's a shiloh if he's yotze, because maybe that it's considered. I guess the shiloh is if he did it and if he lit the candles and it went, I guess you assume he's yotze, unless you get into another reason, maybe you go against the kind of chama. But let's assume he didn't get away with it, so pashas he wouldn't be. It's like a ruach mitzuya. So therefore, that's what they point out, that you have to have enough oil in the candle, and it has to go for half an hour plus. So Bisman Hazeh, whether you live in Toronto on Bathurst, you live in New York City, wherever you are, so we assume Bisman Hazeh, the mitzvah has changed. The ikar pursuing nisa is for the inside of the house, not for the outside of the house. That's why and that's why we don't have that same shear anymore. Even though the minhag is we still light Ashatichel Regum and Ashuk, but we're much more lenient. Even the Rambam would probably agree that you could light later, because you never have Ashatichel Regum and Ashuk. Doesn't happen anymore. You have all night to light the candles, and in fact that's what they point out, that Bisman Hazeh, let's say the poskim talk about, let's say you come home at 2 a.m. Let's assume no one's outside and no one's up in your house. So could you make a bracha on the Chanukah? So that's the discussion in the post, even Mizman Hazeh, yesh al mi lismoch, that there are those who say you can even make with the bracha. I think the Mishnah Brewer's language, Hamavarech lo hifsid, you're not going to lose. In other words, what's in the kuda? Because we assume Mizman Hazeh that even presuming this is for me, I'm the person lighting the candle. Some say you should wait.
The principles, though, don't change. Like we said earlier, that the principles in Judaism stay the same. So it just seems that. It seems that we're saying there is a change in principle.
No, the principle doesn't change. What principle has changed?
Well, the principle was pursuing Nisa. That was the argument between Rambam and Rashba.
Yeah.
That we said earlier.
Yeah, no, I'm good. But why is that change?
Well, the principle, it seems that Rambam's principle is that pursuing Nisa is for the people out in the shuk.
No, right, but that'd be right because that's what.
So if we're saying that
but that's,
we can light inside.
No, but that's because the Gemara changed it. The Gemara said uv'shas sakana, so the Rama would agree during the time of danger that wouldn't apply. In other words, the Rama is talking about normal times. That the Gemara changed. I'm not changing that. The Gemara said for the time of danger you light inside.
So in the time of danger.
So there wouldn't be a that
principle change from.
Yes, that's the right.
For outsiders to pursuing Nisa for
because you're lighting because the assumption is you're lighting on shulchan, no one sees it. That's what. So it's not. That's why. So I'm saying the principle is always pursue Nisa. The reality will dictate outside, inside. Where am I lighting? How can I do the best pursue Nisa? That's an example. You have to know. There's a lot of a subtlety, but the principles don't you? But applying the reality, in terms of that. So good point. So that's what they point out over here. So even poskim say even later on 2 a.m. because the mitzvah, the ikar presuming needs of the inside. Let me just conclude with Dvar Machshava. So the Sfas Emes went with some Hasidic Torah. I wouldn't say it's equal time, 42 minutes to about 2 minutes, but we'll give the Hasidic Torah 2 minutes. A nice paf in the Sfas Emes that he asked. So what's the pshat? So we know the Gemara says that we know Bizman HaGemara they used to light candles outside, and then the Gemara says B'shas HaSakana we brought it inside. So what's the pshat? Why is it a pi machshava? Why was it Bizman HaGemara or earlier generations it was outside, now inside? So the Sfas Emes says like this. He says that during his time, and it's even more true Bizman Hazeh. So he writes, because what was the danger Bizman HaGemara, not just Gemara, but the olden days, but he means like even before his time, he says, what was always the strength? The strength was always the Jewish home. That the Jewish home was strong, and ghetto and all that, and people were always insulated. And what was the concern? When you went outside, the foreign influence, you come in, so therefore what you did was the Jewish home was strong, so where did you put the candle? Pesach Beso, that's the fire of keep the foreign influence away from us. But Bizman Hazeh, and he doesn't even know about internet and all that stuff, all the new things that come up. Bizman Hazeh, the foreign influence is already inside our homes. We all have radio, internet, TV, newspapers. So what do we have to do? So today the avodah is we got to bring the Ner Chanukah inside. We got to make our homes free from the foreign influence. And that's why the mitzvahs changed. It used to be our homes were strong, and the goal was to keep the foreign influence away. Bizman Hazeh, we have a different avodah. We have to try to keep, obviously we have to live with the foreign influence. We bring the candles inside to try to make our homes, Jewish and free from, foreign values. Rambam, when he begins Hilchos Chanukah, number one is, if you look at Hilchos Chanukah, it's mixed together with Hilchos Purim, Hilchos Megillah. It doesn't have its own. I believe it's 4 chapters The first two are Hilchos Megillah, Hilchos Purim, and Perek Gimel and Daled, that's Chanukah. So number one is, why is he so stingy with the headings? Why couldn't they just make Hilchos Purim 2 chapters and Hilchos Chanukah? Why does Chanukah have to share a book with Purim? And secondly, it's out of order. If you look in the Machaber when they set things up, and how do we know? We're celebrating Chanukah next week. Purim isn't for another couple of months. So if anything, he should have put Hilchos Chanukah first. Number one, why do you even need the same book? It seems that the Rambam's putting it, you could bring a geographical proof. There must be something he felt necessary that it had to be. And secondly, even if you're going to put them in the same book, put Chanukah first. That happens first. Chanukah happens before Purim. So what is going on here? So, Rav Soloveitchik pointed out, and others, that really the Rambam writes that you only need, whether it's 2 books or 25 books in your library, or maybe the Yad 14, it depends how many. He says you need the 24 books of Tanakh, and you need the Mishnah Torah, my Sefer, the Mishnah Torah. So number one is people don't like the fact that he calls it Mishnah Torah. Why don't they like? What's wrong with what else is known as Mishnah Torah? What's wrong with the Rambam saying everything's in here? He calls it the Mishnah Torah. Where did he borrow that name from? What other book is called Mishnah Torah? Very good. The 5th book of Moses, Devarim, is known in Chazal as Mishnah Torah. It's a repeat. It really isn't, but in theory, that's what the Ramban's kasha is. There's so many new mitzvahs in Devarim. So what do you mean it's a summary of the first 4 books? It's a separate shir. But either way, it's called Mishnah Torah. So people don't like the fact that the Rambam, they felt a little too much, a little gaiva, a little overconfident. What's he calling it? And in fact, in yeshivas, they don't call it the Mishnah Torah. They call it the Yad. The Yad HaChazaka, Yad, that's the name of the Sefer, the 14 volumes. Yad, Yud and Dalet to the 14 volumes. So this to show, don't call your book, the Mishnah Torah is Dvarim, not your book. But I want to come to the defense of the Rambam. Not that he needs me to defend him. If he needs me, he might be in trouble. But I'll defend him anyway. I'll just tell you what he would have responded. So there's a famous Vilna Gaon. The Gemara tells us that a Talmud Chacham, a Torah scholar, could have like 1/64th, an eighth of an eighth of gaiva. I don't want to say haughtiness, but let's say you're allowed to have a little confidence, a little overconfident, just a drop, not too much. But if you're a Torah scholar, you could walk around. You don't have to walk around with your head down in the sand. You could feel a little confident. So the Vilna Gaon is, where did the Gemara know that a Talmud Chacham could have a little extra confidence? So he says it's a pasuk in the Chumash. Because what does the Gemara say? You could have a shmias of a shmias, an eighth of an eighth. So he said if you look in the book of Bereshis, the 8th parsha, which is what? Not this week, by Yishlach, and the 8th pasuk, Yaakov's telling God, Kartonti mikol hachasidim, that God, you're too good to me. I don't deserve all of this. I don't deserve all the chasadim. What is the implication? But some of it I deserve. I don't deserve everything, but a couple of ribs I deserve. I don't need the whole pack. I don't need the whole rack. But I'm saying I deserve a little bit. So what do we see from here? So that's what the Gemara gets, that a Talmud Chacham could have an eighth of an eighth. So perhaps that's the pshat in the Ram. The Rambam's worthy of maybe a little bit of gaiva, and therefore perhaps that's why he called it the Mishnah Torah. But either way, that's what he calls his book. Whether you like it or not, that's what he calls it. So he writes, you only need these two, and what does he write? He says, why? Because the 24 books deal with Tanakh, and I deal with Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's what the Mishnah Torah is basically all of summary of Torah Shebaal Peh, and the 24 books take care of Tanakh. So that's why, in fact, it answers up another kasha. The Rama, when he begins Hilchas Chanukah, he goes into a little history lesson, some Jewish history. He goes in Bayesheni, and he gives the whole story with the Greeks that defiled the temple, they made decrees against us until the Hashmonaim took over and stayed the king for 200 years. He goes to, so the question they all ask on the Rambam is, you just wrote in your introduction, you're a halachic sefer, you're not a history sefer. Why are you telling us history? And you don't begin Hilchas Purim with history, so why Hilchas Chanukah? So the Rambam writes, when it comes to Purim, he says, V'hadvarim yiduim. I don't have to go into history. It's well known. What does it mean it's well known? It's in Megillas Esther. You just open up the 24 books. You open up one of the 24. You open up Esther and you read the story. So the Rambam needs to tell me the history of Chanukah because I don't know anything about Chanukah because all I have is the 24 books of Tanakh. And as they say, Chanuka, which really means Chanu, they rested on the 25th of Kislev, and that's when we celebrate. But people say Derek Drush, Chanuka Hey, they wanted to put Chanukah, make it the 25th book of Tanakh, but they Chanuka Hey, they didn't let him in. They rested on the 25th. Chanukah never made the cut. That's why we'll see, that's the Yontif of Torah Shebaal Peh. That's a separate discussion. So either way, so the Rambam has to tell us about Chanukah because we don't know anything about Chanukah. But Purim, Dvarim Yiduim. So he points out that why does Purim, Rav Soloveitchik points out, why does Purim come before Chanukah? Because there's a kasha, the Mefarshim, the Gemara is even bothered by, there's a biblical prohibition in the Torah called Baal Tosif. Baal Tosif and Baal Tigra. You're not allowed to add to the Torah, and you're not allowed to decrease. So there's a famous parable from the Dubno Magid. He says, everyone understands that you can't take away from the Torah. Obviously, if the Torah is perfect, you take away something you're missing. But what's the problem with adding? Why is there a problem? So we add the more the merrier. So what's the problem? So the Dubno Magid gives a famous parable. He says, someone comes, now your next door neighbor, this comes to your house and says, you know what, I'm short, I'm having guests, could I borrow, like a setting, like a table, like a fork, a knife, a spoon, a plate, cup, one of each or something? He says, sure. So great, so then he comes, and that was for Shabbos, he comes running back Saturday night and says, you'll never believe I have great news for you. He said, what? He said, the silverware gave birth. And you know what, I have two of everything. So he thinks the guy's nuts, but I get two of everything, why not? Okay, so then the next week the guy comes back and says, you know what? Could I borrow three of everything? Oh, okay, great. He comes back with some good news to tell you. They gave birth, and he comes back with six. And he does this for a while. And finally, one week he comes and says, I'm having a tremendous buy. Can I have everything? All your china, all your silver, all the good stuff. So great, you think this guy now will have like 40 plates instead of... So he comes back with a very sad look on his face. He says, oh, what's wrong? He said, you'll never guess what happened. The silverware died over Shabbos. So the guy said, what are you talking about? Silverware doesn't die. Well, if silverware could give birth, it could also die. So the Dubno Magid points out that's the mushroom. Because the problem is, you might start adding, but if you start adding stuff, then you end up decreasing. Called hamosif goreya. Sometimes, that's why when you take on chumras, you have to know what they are. Because you'll start adding and then you'll take away not only the chumras, you'll take away the basics. So therefore, one has to be careful to know there needs a clear demarcation, what's biblical, what's rabbinical. So that's the question the Mefarshim asked. The Gemara asks, how could the rabbis, how could the Nevi'im institute Purim? Ein Navi Rasha L'chadesh Dava Me'ata. The prophets can't make up a mitzvah that only Moshe Rabbeinu can but give us mitzvahs in Torah. So how could the Nevi'im come along and change? So that's the kasha of the Gemara. So the Gemara wants to know, but Rashi asks, why don't they ask about Hanukkah? Well, Hanukkah was a less of a problem because that's only rabbinical, and we know already we have a pasuk in the Chumash. Well, Sasa min hadaver asher yagiducha yamin osmo. You have to. There's a pasuk in the Torah. You listen to the rabbis. So the rabbis have a right to institute different takanas and gzeros. So it was already a discussion in the Gemara, and they said, yeah, we'll have to go to the prophets and see, are you allowed to institute a new yontif? Apparently the answer must have been yes, because we're still celebrating today. So it's only from us, they learned out from us some different psukim that we were allowed to institute Purim, and Hanukkah wasn't a problem. So that's what Rav Soloveitchik pointed out, that he likes to say, without Purim, there can never be a Chanuka. Meaning, there's many meanings to that, but what we mean here is that if Purim would have been rejected, if the Nevi'ah would have been turned down, no new Yom Tovim, then Chanukah Mistama wouldn't have been passed either. So that's the pshat. He begins first with Hilchos Purim because it's only because you're allowed to institute a new yontif based on Chazal, based on the Nevi'im. So secondly, even though Chanukah comes first on the calendar, but Purim comes first historically, and therefore he has to mix them because Chanukah can't stand on its own. It's only because we had a yontif of Purim, we could also have a yontif of Chanukah, and hence it's out of order. We go historically first Purim, then Chanukah, because without Purim, there never would have been a Chanukah. The famous sugya on Shabbos and Chaf Aleph on Beis regarding the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah. The Gemara tells us, Ner Ish Ubeso, that the minimum obligation to light Chanukah candles is one candle per household every night. That is, if one lights one candle or oil one night, every night of Chanukah, one fulfills the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah. That's the minimum obligation, and no one can take it away from you. You light one candle, that's it. However, the Gemara gives us a second level, Mahadrin, that if you want to do more than the minimum, so you do the Hiddur mitzvah. So if you have 10 members in your household, you light 10 candles every night of Chanukah. So the first level is one candle every night. That's the basic mitzvah. The second level, Mahadrin, working with 10 members in your home. So you light 10 candles every night. And then the Gemara gives us a Machlokas Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. If you want to even do more than that, Mahadrin Mina Mahadrin. You really want to do the ultimate, you should do as follows. So it's a Machlokas Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. The Gemara is not clear exactly how many candles, and we'll get to a Machlokas Tosas in the Rambam in a minute. But there's a Machlokas Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, whether you light 8 candles the first night and then you go down, or as many candles as we're talking about, do you light all the candles the first night and then go down every night, or do you go up, let's say, from 1 to 8 or 8 to 1? So that's the Machlokas Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai says from 8 to 1. Beis Hillel says from 1 to 8. And the Gemara gives 2 reasons for each. Why does Beis Shammai say to go down? Why does Beis Hillel say to go up? So the first reason is Keneged Yamim Hayotzin or Keneged Yamim Hanechnasin. In other words, there's one question you have to ask yourself. What day of Chanukah is it today? Or how many days of Chanukah is left? So according to Beis Shammai, the first day you ask how many days of Chanukah is left. It's 8, and each day you're going down. Beis Hillel says you ask yourself what day of Chanukah it is, and you go up every day. That's one way the Gemara explains. The second way is, what does Beis Shammai say you go down? Keneged Pari Hachag, corresponding to the cows of the holiday. What is it talking? What cows of what holiday? Rashi tells us we're talking about the holiday of Sukkot. What happened on Sukkot? It's a universal holiday where we bring karbanos even for the Gentiles, for the 70 nations. We start off with 13, 12, 11. We go in descending order on Sukkot in how many karbanos we bring in the Beis HaMikdash. So Beis Shammai says, just like by Sukkot we go down to Chanukah. The question is obvious, like, what is the no-stop radio? What's the connection between, I walk down the steps, so I think we should light candles in descending order. What is the fact that on Sukkot, yeah, Ryan?
People eat the offerings after?
Yeah, for what?
Because you imagine after eating 13 bowls, the next day you're not going to only eat 14.
Oh, it's too...
You only want 13. Only 13 today.
No, but you could start at 7 go up to 13. That's the question.
Right. Very good. Save that for the great cup waiter. There are a couple similarities between Sukkot and Hanukkah. Number one is they're both 8 days, and the commentators tell us that each rabbinic holiday is patterned after a biblical holiday. So Hanukkah is patterned after Sukkot in certain ways, and Purim after Shavuos. Shavuos is only 1 day also. Another similarity besides 8 days is outside. Sukkah, last I checked, we eat outside. If it's a kosher sukkah, that is, you eat outside. And so too, not anymore, but B'din HaGemara, you used to light Hanukkah candles outside. And there's another similar halacha, that a near Chanukah l'malo michaf amma. You can't light a Chanukah candle over 20 amas high because of the mitzvah persumei nisa. The average person, if you're just walking by, you're not going to notice something over 20 amas high. So too, that's halacha by the schach, the sukkah. You can't have the schach more than 20 amas high because you're supposed to look at the schach and remember the mitzvah, remember the miracle that God did for us in the midbar. So there are many similarities between Chanukah and Sukkot, and hence that's how Beis Shammai learns Keneged Pari Achag. Beis Hillel gives a totally different reason. Why do they say you go up? Because Malin b'kodesh ve'ein moridin. You always go up in sanctity and not down, which isn't the normative way of using that principle, but the Gemara did it, so I can't argue. What is the normative principle is this morning we're going to put on our talis first, and then we're going to put on our tefillin. There's a qualitative difference in Kedusha between a talis and tefillin. Talis is only tashmishe mitzvah once it's no good and you could technically throw out. But tefillin, the Torah part, is tashmishe kedusha. So I understand malam b'kodesh. What the Gemara seems to be saying, 2 candles is more kedusha than 1, even though basically it's the same candle, it's just more. But either way, the Gemara uses it in this. The classical way is a qualitative difference that we see from this Gemara. You even use malin b'kodesh, even if it's the same object, but you're using more. But either way, those are the 2 reasons for each. So how do you apply? So what exactly is the Gemara saying? Mahajim and Mahajim. We have the first level is 1 candle every night. Mahajin is 10 candles every night. What exactly is the highest level? According to Beis Hillel, we'll work with, since that's who we follow. What exactly are we doing on the 3rd night that makes a Mahajim and a Hajin? So Tosfos says the following. You know what Mahajim and a Hajin is? Is going back on the first level, on Ner Ishu Beso. In other words, if Ner Ishu Beso means 1 candle every night, so what's Mahajim and Mahajin? 2 the 2nd night, 3 the 3rd night, 4 the 4th. And according to the Tosfos, even if you have 10 members in your household, you have 1 menorah. You light 1 menorah in your home, and that's it. That is the highest level of Hiddur. Tosfos says 1 candle, even though, as Avi's pointing out, it's going to be really the reverse. Usually the Sfardim follow the Rambam, and we follow Tosfos. It's going to be the opposite by Chanukah. So Tosfos Shita is, that's it, 1 candle per household. And the Rambam disagrees. The Rambam writes, Kama Neros Hu Yadlik, and he goes through the whole discussion, and he says, on the 8th night, 10 people in your household, 10 times 8 equal 80. You'll be lighting 80 candles the last night of Chanukah. So it's a major dispute, Tosfos and the Rambam. What is Mahajim and a Mahajim? What should we be doing? So Tosfos says 1 menorah per household, and the Rambam holds everyone, you light 80 candles corresponding to all the members. What is in the Kudas HaMachlokas? What's the issue here between Tosfos and the Rambam? Why does Tosfos think that is the best way of doing it? Mahajim and Mahajim. Why does the Rambam think his way is the best? So it could be the Talmidei Hagra, right? It could be we gave 2 reasons for each. So let's focus on Beis Hillel, since that's who we paskin like. which is the ikar reason and which is the tougher? What's the primary reason in the Gemara and what's the secondary? So Tosas seems to learn the main reason in the Gemara is Keneged Yamim Hayotim, and the key is to know what day it is. In fact, Tosas himself spells it out. You know why it's Yotir Hidr? He doesn't mention the Rambam by name or those other, but he says, but how are you going to know? There's 80 candles. You think it's the 80th night of Hanukkah? No one's going to have a clue about what day of Hanukkah it is. It seems to be very important. Part of the mitzvah of pursuing Nisa is not only to know it is Hanukkah, but to know what day of Hanukkah it is. And therefore, that's, if you want to know what day of Hanukkah is, if you have 50 candles, no one's going to have a clue, but 8 candles you would know, or 5 candles. And the Rambam seems to learn the other reason of the Gemara. Malin bekodesh ve'emo ridin. The key is going up. Because if someone's walking by a house, so if you have 5 candles, you might not notice. But if there's 50 candles, there'll be nice, bright lights, and people will notice. So that seems to be the machlokas, Tosas, and the Ram. What is the ikar reason of the Gemara? Is it Keneged Yamim Hayotzim Ad Nechnasin? Or no, it's Malin Bakodesh Ve'emo Ridin. So the Sfardim go with the Bali Tosfos, 1 menorah per household. There's always different minhagim among the Sfardim, but that's the Machaber brings down, that the standard minhag Sfardim is 1 menorah per household. And the Ashkenaz go with the Rambam. I just want to point out, today we kind of do a mix because we have a menorah today. So even if you're lighting 8 menorahs, it's still recognizable. So we try to fit in both Tosas and the Rambam. And we have actually menorahs and not just candles. So it makes it a little more so we try to fulfill both Tosas and the Rambam.
Yes, so take the second level, Mahadrim.
Right.
Would Tosfos and Rambam agree about that?
Yeah, the first 2 levels is no machlokas.
Oh, they all agree. So, okay.
So it would be 1, okay. 10, and then you're right. According to Tosas, you'd be going down to 8, and according to the Rambam, you'd be going to 80. Again, assuming 10 people, 8 night. That's our example. So I said the Ashkenaz follow the Rambam, but not totally, because if you look closely at the Ramah, there's a minor or major difference between the way we actually do it today, B'nai Ashkenaz, and the Rambam Shita. We agree on how many candles. We disagree on who lights the candles. If you look closely at the Rambam writes the Balabais is going to be very busy that night. He has to light all 80 candles himself. That's what the Rambam writes. The Balabais lights all the candles, and our minhag is, in the minhag Ramah, each person in their home lights their own menorah. So what is this machlokas about? What forced the Rambam to say that the Balabais has to light all 80, versus our minhag is that each person lights their own? So there's a famous Beis Halevi, which the Brisker Rav elaborates on, based on a Gemara in Shabbos, on Kuf Lamed, Dalet Kuf Lamed Hey, in the 19th parak of Shabbos, which deals with the mitzvah of Milah. So, regarding the mitzvah of Milah, the Gemara says as follows. The Gemara talks about there are different type of sitzin, strands of skin, without getting into the details. There's certain parts of skins you have to cut off to fulfill the mitzvah of Milah. Other parts, if you don't do, you still get the mitzvah, but you're lacking in zek, keli, vanveil. You're lacking in hidr mitzvah. To do the mitzvah properly, you have to cut off a certain amount of sitzin, strands, skin. But if you don't do them, sometimes it's ma'akev, sometimes you haven't done anything. And other times, you got the mitzvah, but you didn't do the hidr mitzvah. So the Brisa, the Gemara quotes the following Brisa. The Brisa says, let's say a moel, someone's in the middle of doing a bris milah, and they realize that they didn't do it properly. So the Gemara says, well, of course, if you didn't do, so it didn't matter, if you're still in the middle of doing it, because whether you're doing the tzitzin ha-ma'akvin or the tzitzin she'ena ma'akvin, you might get a new mohel, but that's a separate discussion. But assuming you can't, so he has to go back, and no matter what, he'll go back and do it correctly. Whether it's tzitzin ha-ma'akvin, tzitzin she'ena ma'akvin, you go back, as long as you're involved within the milah. What is considered the milah process? So the milah, the priya. Let's assume once you get to the bagel and lox, the bris is over. But so as long as you're still in the middle of the bris, you could go back. The Gemara says, what happens if perish? You're ready, finished, you're eating breakfast, you're having the bagel and lox, then you realize, wait a second, the mohel messed up. So if it's the tzitzin ha-ma'akvin, so if you haven't done anything, you have to go back, you haven't done the bris milah, because those strands are ma'akev. But if it's the tzitzin she'ena ma'akvin, the ones that you only need for hidr mitzvah, so then the Brisa says you don't have to go back. Eino chozer. So that's the fact. That's the brisa. However, there's a major machlokas Rashi versus the Rambam. Rashi and the Torah versus the Rambam. So the question is, why don't you go back for sitz and chayin ma'akvin? Let's say you're
pain.
Oh, the pain factor. You care about the kid. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize for that.
So that could be. So we'll see. So
if it's not necessary, why put the kid through more tsar?
No, because right. So you're saying so.
You can't go hit her on somebody else's cheshbon.
That's very good. We'll get so you're thinking like a real Svardi. The Rambam. We'll get to you shortly. So so the question is like this. First of all, we have a more fundamental question. What day of the week are we talking about? The Brisa doesn't spell it out, but we are in Besechah Shabbos. So Rashi and the Torah learn we're talking about Shabbos. As we all know, Uvayom Hashmini Imo Basara Laso. A bris mila bizmana is docha Shabbos. If it's day 8 and a healthy baby, you do it on Shabbos. So the question is, so Rashi learns this price is Shabbos. So he says, for the mitzvah mila, it's docha Shabbos, but hiddur mitzvah, we're not going to go back on machal Shabbos for hiddur mitzvah.
But during the week, no problem.
Right. So, but according to Rashi, if it's Tuesday, of course you go back. What's the issue? And the Rambam says no. Ben b'chol, ben b'Shabbos. You did not go back. So the shaila is what's with the Rambam? Why wouldn't I go back on Tuesday? Bishko Meshabbos, I understand not to go back, but why wouldn't I go back on Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday? So the Chasam Sofer writes along Avi's lines that because the only heter of doing a bris milah is because the Torah tells us to. If there wasn't a mitzvah bris milah, it'd be usher, it'd be a chabura. You're not going to damage yourself, and certainly you can't do it to someone else. So, in fact, according to the Rambam, perhaps if you're doing it to yourself and you choose to do it, then perhaps the Rambam would say, okay, you can do it. Because you have a right to make a choice for yourself if you want to do a hiddur mitzvah and suffer pain. But perhaps to do it on your child, that wouldn't even be permitted. So the Rambam's learning during the week, and he says you're never allowed to go back because that's the way the Chasam Sofer learns. But the Beis Halevi says it's not an issue of chabur, it's a totally different reason. You have to understand what is the nature of the din of hiddur mitzvah. When the Gemara says cutting off the tzitz and she'ena ma'akvin is based on zek keli van ve'u, it's the din of hiddur mitzvah. So what's the pshat the Beis Halevi says? Is hiddur mitzvah, does hiddur mitzvah make sense in a vacuum? Can I just go ahead and do mitzvah totally separate from the mitzvah itself? Or no, the bag. Or he has a nice bag. That's hiddur mitzvah. He has a nice tefillin bag. So does hiddur mitzvah make sense independently? Can I just do a hiddur mitzvah in a vacuum? Or no? Hiddur mitzvah only makes sense in the context of the ma'aseh mitzvah. So the Beis Halevi says that is the machlokas here between Rashi and the Rambam. Rashi holds, and the Torah hiddur mitzvah makes sense even independently. So even though you finish the mitzvah on Shabbos, but Tuesday I could go back whenever I remember, whenever I notice it, I could go back and finish the job. I could do a hiddur mitzvah because hiddur mitzvah makes sense; it stands by itself. And the Rambam says no, hiddur mitzvah only makes sense in the context of the ma'aseh mitzvah. In other words, to explain it a little differently, when you do a hiddur mitzvah on tefillin, or you do a hiddur mitzvah on the daled midim, is that enhancing? Is that you're enhancing the daled midim? You're enhancing the mitzvah tefillin, or no? It's a separate, independent mitzvah. You get. In other words, is it the same hiddur mitzvah when I do tefillin, talis, and milah? If you say that the hiddur mitzvah takes on the context of the mitzvah, then it would be. That's the Rambam sees to. Or no, the Rashi says it's the same hiddur mitzvah by kol Torah kulo. It just happens to be on that specific mitzvah. So Rashi and the Torah hold that hiddur mitzvah is independent. Therefore, you can even do the sitz and she'ena ma'akvin on Tuesday. And the Rambam holds no. There's no point. You're not getting any mitzvah, and you're doing chabura. So therefore, it's also according to the Rambam to go back and do the sitz and she'ena. You're not gaining anything, and you're only causing the child harm. That's one way. The Beis Halevi gets a second way. The first way is going to be the key way, but just throughout the second way the Beis Halevi learns that Gemara is, no, everybody agrees hiddur mitzvah only makes sense in the context of hiddur mitzvah. The shaila is, what is the mitzvah of milah? Rama holds the mitzvah is the ma'aseh chaticha. So once you do the chatikas arla, that's it. The mitzvah is over. Rashi in the Torah, it's a continuous mitzvah. Like the Gemara tells us in Shabbos, when David HaMelech was getting very depressed, and he was in the bathhouse, he said, "I can't do any mitzvahs now." And he looked down at his bris milah, and he remembered, and he was happy. So the Achronim learned that perhaps there's a mitzvah being gamal, not just the moment, because obviously he didn't do a circumcision that day in the bathhouse. So it's a concept.
Four things that people want to already be good.
Exactly, yeah.
Sorry.
So therefore, that's how the Beis Halevi says you could also say. But getting back to the first way, the Brisker Rav takes the first way of the Beis Halevi and says, based on my father's pshat, by the citizen, we could understand the machlokas here by Hilchas Chanukah between the Rambam and the Ramah. We say, what's Mahadrim and a Mahadrin? The Rambam, the Baal HaBayis has to light all 80, and the Ramah says each person lights their own. So it's the Rambam Lishitason. The Rambam consistent with his view by Hiddur Mitzvah. Hiddur Mitzvah only makes sense in the context of the Ma'aseh Mitzvah. Everybody agrees, once you light candle number 1, that is it. Ner Ishu Beso, you have fulfilled your minimum mitzvah of Ner Chanukah. The next 79 are only Hiddur. So the Rambam says only the person who did the mitzvah could do the Hiddur, so hence the Rambam L'shitazon, the Rambam has to light all 80. And the Ramah is working with Rashi and the Torah. No, Hiddur mitzvah makes sense in the context of even independent, and each person can light their own halakas neiros.